Hi, everybody. Mr. Conboy here. Just in case you need it, I want to give you an example of how to complete and think through your first challenge task for your genetic disorder project. So, hopefully, you have the task itself in front of you. It looks like this prompt right here, and hopefully, another piece of paper as well. I suppose you're looking through your Chromebook or your phone, so you're ready to do some research if you haven't yet. So, this first subtask or two I have completed right here, and that is essentially that I found out that cystic fibrosis is caused by a recessive allele. And so, as you probably remember from seventh grade, recessive alleles we typically show with a lowercase letter, and dominant alleles we show with an uppercase of the same letter. So, if my troublesome allele is the recessive one, I'm going to use a little c to represent the allele that contributes toward sickness, and big C to represent the allele that helps contribute to health. And I also found through my research that it's found on chromosome 7. So you need to do the equivalent research for your genetic disorder. And then you need to think about what has to be true of the parents in order for neither of them to suffer symptoms while at the same time being able to conceive a child who does. So in my case, I'm just applying some seventh grade knowledge, which is that if somebody has both a healthy allele, big C, and a recessive allele, little c, then that dominant healthy allele is expressed more by the cell than the recessive one. So this person is going to be okay. On a cellular level, maybe they don't have as many well working proteins as somebody who has two big C's. But the point is, if they have one big C, at least half of their proteins work well. And that appears in this case to be enough to keep them healthy. So I think of all the possible combinations of alleles that an individual human could have. They could have two big C's, which means homozygous dominant, meaning they are of a zygote that is same in the sense of having two dominant alleles. They could have two recessives that will definitely cause them to be sick with cystic fibrosis, or they could have one of each. They could have two different alleles in the zygote they come from, or heterozygous. Now, if both parents are symptom free, yet can conceive a child who ends up with two little c's, then hopefully you can imagine that both parents would have to be heterozygous or big C, little c. So, with that in mind, I'm going to try to do everything that 3, 4, 5, and 6 say. So, I'm just going to kind of walk you through this quick. So, let's say this is the germ cell from the mother. Here's the germ cell from the father. We're supposed to draw 23 homologous pairs, but we're really not going to draw all 23. We're just going to draw 3. And I know from my research that homologous pair 7 is the one that carries the gene. So, let's say this is pair 7. And both the mom and the dad have a pair 7, of course. And I've already decided they're both heterozygous. So what that means is that I have to show both a big C and a little c in the starting cell that does meiosis in each parent. Now, you might wonder, why do I have two big C's and two little c's? Well, I do because remember that the information that the mother has gets replicated before meiosis begins. And so we should have two of exactly the same letter found on the same duplicate chromosome. On the other duplicate chromosome, we might have different alleles than on the first, but those alleles should be the same as each other within the duplicate chromosome because a duplicate chromosome contains two sister chromatids, which are copies of each other from replication. So if I draw my chromosome pairs and I've annotated the alleles that are found on the pair that matters the most to this disorder, I can then just imagine the rest of meiosis, the equal division of genetic material right down the middle. And I can imagine what this set of cells will look like in metaphase 2. Notice I'm keeping my annotations. I do the same thing for the other parent. And then I look at the gametes that result. Looks like the mother, out of 4 possible gametes, 2 of them are going to have dominant alleles, 2 are going to have recessive alleles. Same situation for the father. And one of the last tasks you're asked is to circle the gametes that might be involved in a fertilization that's resulting in disease. So if this particular egg were fertilized by this sperm or this sperm, we would have a child with little c, who would have cystic fibrosis. If this particular egg were fertilized instead by either of these, same scenario. But if we involved either of these eggs or either of these sperm instead, then the child would be okay. So moving on to number 7, trying to make sense of all that. And to summarize, to get 2 little c's, the child has to get a little c instead of a big C from mom, and that's a 50% chance, since 2 out of 4 gametes have little c. And from the other parent, the child would have to get a little c instead of a big C. That's a 50% chance. So the odds of getting 2 little c's is 50% times 50%, or 25%. So that's an example of completing the first challenge task for your genetic disorder project. What your outcome might be is perhaps different than mine based on how the disorder works, but hopefully this is something you can do. And if not, you should definitely seek help early so that you can feel confident about your genetic disorder project going forward. Take care now.